All right, guys, so this is my take on the GasGas ECC6 after having it for pretty much a year. Putting it through immense punishment and torment and pain, running the motor until it wore out, and other parts that broke on the bike. So we're going to go ahead and get into the not so great things and, well, mostly the great things. I'm going to go ahead and put this out there in this video. This is not a sponsored video. I have no affiliation with GasGas, KTM, or Husk. None of those guys. And I want to put that out there because I have mostly good things to say about this bike. And it may seem like a little biased, like I'm getting paid for it. I am not. The bike is just actually very good all around. If you want the short synopsis without having to watch most of it, there. It's a fantastic bike. It's underrated. You should get it. Now, if you want to hear more about why, stay and watch this video. So first off, what I want to say is that this is a true enduro bike. Meaning, you know, the geometry is and the length of the bike is, to me, what makes it an enduro bike, not the travel, because there are 180, 170 mullets out there that are specifically classified as trail bike. I know they tried to make it look like an enduro, but that specifically, because of its geometry, in my opinion, is a trail bike, a very comfortable one. But this one specifically, because of its super slack geometry and much longer chainstay, the bike in and of itself is physically longer than all of my other e-bikes and or standard mountain bikes. Like when I put it on the Q-Out rack, I can barely fit the things over. They get like one click on each side before it maxes out. And that is just, it almost doesn't fit because it's so long. What does that do for the bike? It makes it really fast and stable down the hill. It makes it also soak up rocks. The best I have ever ridden on any e-bike or mountain bike to date. Not that I've ridden I've ridden enough of them to kind of have a general idea. Not ridden a whole lot, but enough to know that this is like maybe the best suspension setup that I've ever tried. So let's talk about specifically the suspension. I know it says DVO down the top, in the bottom, and whatever, but that's not what you need to focus on specifically. It's the WP. WP is the cone valve technology used in GasGas, Husqvarna, and KTM suspension. It is fantastic. The best mountain bike suspension I personally ever tried for small bump sensitivity and just overall around plushness. But it is specifically only for the GasGas. Like most of my stuff's either Fox Factory or it's RockShox's most high-end sections and stuff. But this one, something about it is so different. It just felt like it was the best suspension I ever tried. I actually went to go and try and get more of it to upgrade all my bikes to this DVO front fork. And then it hit me that you can't get it. You can go get a DVO fork, but not with the WP cone valve. The WP cone valve was specifically for the GasGas. The rear shock, that had WP cone valve technology in it too. You can't get that either. So you're kind of just pigeonholed to only get it exclusively through the GasGas. And that's great if you get a GasGas. Not so great if you don't. But I guess what you don't know won't hurt you. You only can take my word for it that it's like the best fork I've ever tried. Which it is. One thing I did upgrade, progressive spring. It was a 400 to 600 progressive spring, which it was still very linear in feel, but it helped out with the bottom outs and it kind of just helped a little bit with the climbing. It was pretty nice. I never felt like I was running out of travel or that the spring was too stiff. It actually was kind of perfect. Had nice small bump sensitivity, and then it was real stiff when it needed to be. But the initial spring on there was not enough. It was too little for me. So everything came pretty cherried out on this bike. It had full SRAM powertrain. It had the RockShox reverb post, full XO drivetrain. So it was a really flawless setup in that conjunction because the whole SRAM suite is really nice. And I mean the whole thing, not just like the reverb or the XO, but the actual powertrain. So the XO T-Type, whether it's GX or XO, I run them on all my e-bikes. For one, because I feel it needs to be an actual standard for e-bikes. It's just so much better for the actual wear and tear of a cassette or an entire drivetrain on the e-bike. They just do so much better. So I have them on all e-bikes, but this is the only one where I have a complete powertrain. And the difference in the powertrain versus just a standalone like T-Type derailleur is that if I shift on a standalone derailleur, it shifts no matter what happens. It doesn't know whether or not I'm about to pedal. It doesn't know to wait or hold off. But if you press that SRAM pod 2, 3, 4 times for the derailleur to move with the SRAM powertrain, that derailleur does not move. It stays put until you start to pedal. At least this is what I've noticed. It's crazy. So the advantage for this is if you're bombing down a hill, you can't necessarily comfort pedal into shifting because you're about to just do a whole switchback. you're about to start climbing and you only got a split second to really kind of get into that gear. They really just help you pre-shift, and then the minute you start pedaling, it very, very intelligently allows you to get into whatever gear you placed it. So you shifted 4 gears down, it'll just very, very nicely shift you as you're climbing under a load. It'll still get you there. So it's not like the standard axis T-type derailleurs aren't pretty much flawless themselves. Is that this whole system, when it's combined and the derailleur and the motor talk to each other, it is truly flawless. It is the most flawless setup in terms of shifting that I've experienced. Now, the one downside to it though is that SRAM partnered with the Bros motor. Well, it takes a little bit getting used to. Throws all the torque in the front, not a whole lot of high-end torque at the end, just throws a whole lot of low-end torque. So pretty much all his torque's in the front. And so it feels like there's no high-end torque in the end, but really it's just all the torque is immediately when you put the pedals. So it feels a little bit less natural. A lot of people don't like it, and I can see why. But you just kind of get used to it the more you ride the bike, and then you don't care. The thing I did care about though is that the belt drive in there did go out, but not before I put that bike through serious amounts of riding and hell and all kinds of other things. So do I fault the motor for going out? No. I don't really know how much of a frequent problem it is, but I tell you what, you know, it's not like I was like riding that bike casually or just down mile trails. I was really, really putting it through all of its paces. And that was one of the only major things on the bike that went down. I had crashed a few times because that's just what happens. I would say the MX style motor shrouds that they have on down the side of the bike, I really came to appreciate those and how much they protected the bike during crashes. For the amount of crashes I've had on the bike, it's more or less unscathed in terms of scratches on the frame. So that's wonderful, because on my other bikes, you can tell that I used them. And then the Newman EG30 rims, they were also pretty nice too. I had no complaints about those. They were high-end rims, good quality. They had straight pull spokes. They're very strong. I ended up putting on my Bontrager carbon rims for my other trail bike so I could have a full carbon setup, and that definitely did increase the speed and just the flow of the bike. You were able to get down things like easier. It just had that full carbon feel to it. I think that really completed the bike. That was the only major upgrade that I really did to the bike, aside from the upgrades that everybody else did, like pedals, the seat, the handlebars, the grips, the stem. I upgraded all those things to kind of make the bike a little bit more eccentric. I put deity components to try and match like the red kind of scheme they had going on there. But that was it. The bike is ready to go. It needs no other upgrades aside from maybe some carbon rims, if you just want the extra edge. Otherwise, it's a perfect bike out of the gate. You can't get better suspension for it. You can't get a better drivetrain for it. The RockShox Reverb Post, in my opinion, is still king, even though the Fox Transfer Neo came out. I have a review coming about that thing, and I'll just shortly tell you right now, the Reverb's still king. So how did the bike do down trails? So I took it down many different trails. Very, very tight technical trails and very long, lengthy trails with lots and lots of rocks everywhere. It did really well in Sedona. Like, Sedona is nothing but rocks on top of rocks on top of rocks, but there's no crazy, at least the trails I went down, there was no crazy switchbacks. There was just a lot of chunk, a lot of staircases, a lot of like shelves and drop-offs, and just rocks everywhere. And personally, knowing how that would feel over time in a trail bike, I'm so glad I had the GasGas. The suspension ate all that up, and then the full carbon setup just completed it. And so I had really good long lengthy runs without my hands cramping up or my teeth chattering or any of that stuff. I didn't have to expend a whole lot of extra energy to compensate for where the bike wasn't doing well on all that terrain. The bike just kind of just does it all for you. So if you're kind of older, you will appreciate this bike and what it can do for your joints. Where it doesn't do that great is really tight technical stuff. If the technical stuff is not tight, it still does really good on technical stuff, but specifically they're really tight, meaning up and down, like really fast. Like, because the bike is so long, it takes the rear tire longer to catch up with the front tire, so your chances of hitting the skid plate on a rock increase significantly. In fact, that's my biggest complaint. I was hitting that skid plate to death. Now, thank heaven, GasGas actually sprung and got a good skid plate. It is a nice, thick, 1/8-inch thick aluminum skid plate, so it can take a lot of hits with rocks, and it's fine. Your motor's fine, unlike a lot of these really thin aluminum like guards, or these in plastic guards on some of these bikes. I don't know how you get away with plastic or why you think that's smart. Bike companies, shame on you. As you're going over something, it just took the rear tire longer to start going back over, to start having the bike go back over altogether. So that's just something I have to deal with a longer bike. That is one of the only drawbacks. The other drawback is if you're climbing, it does climb really well as long as there's not real tight turns. It struggles on the tight turns, and sometimes you got to stop. I also thought like a full 29er, like I was thinking I would really want a full 29er downhill bike, but after like running a full 29er, yeah, it's a whole lot faster, but man, the angular momentum of two 29-inch wheels, they're so much harder to turn. Even a mullet, an MX style, I know a lot of people maybe may or may not like that, but I swear that bike's a whole lot easier to turn. I do kind of wish they would have made this one a mullet. If they had like flip links somewhere to where you could flip it to make it a mullet, that would just been prime. I think this bike in a mullet would be just fantastic, but as a full 29er, it's still really fast. It still climbs really well. So for whatever reason you're getting this to really push yourself on the edge, go on these really, really long like climbs where you kind of have to self shuttle up the hill just so you can bomb down in record speed. Or if you're just looking for something comfortable, nice, elegant, kind of top of the line, and you're just kind of just trying to enjoy your golden years, so to speak, this bike is kind of good for all around those things. I have not found a bike to replace it. I mean, I've been going through several different bikes. I've wasted thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on different bikes. This one I think is going to be extremely hard to replace because there's just simply nothing like it and nothing that can replicate it. There's nobody else coming out with a WP cone valve, and there's just other things about the bike that make it so unique in how it handles that it's just the entire total package. That's my review, guys. Let me know what you think. Anyways, guys, I'll talk to you later.